Hi, I'm Katie at the Fabric Squirrel, and this is my sewing year in review. So, this is everything that I've made this year, and I thought you might want to have a look through with me how my year has gone through the sewing and how it compares to what my plans were at the beginning of the year. I've had a look back at my diary, and the main thing that I put sewing wise was that I wanted to repurpose and upcycle more, and that is something that I have definitely done this year. So, um, although as you can see, there is also a lot of new things there, but we'll talk through them. I started my year with a really lovely new fabric delivery of different dressmaking fabrics. And this was one of them. It's a viscose, but with some elastine in it. So it's got a slight stretch to it. And as soon as I saw it, I loved the colours. I love anything bright on a black background. I'm always drawn to black backgrounds when it comes to picking fabric collections. So yeah, I loved this. This is an Agnes top from Tilly and the Buttons, and it is not the first one I've made. Definitely won't be the last one I've made. If I ever have jersey fabric, this is my go-to fabric pattern. This is one of 4 tops that I have made this year. One of the things I wanted to do this year with my sewing was to make things that I wear every day. I bike the kids to school in the morning and I walk to school to pick them up. I'm in my sewing room all day, so the practicality of wearing a dress is just, well, it's not practical most of the time. And most of the things that I've made in the past have been dresses. Realistically, I live in jeans all day long. So one of the things I want to do this year is wear more day-to-day things that I'm actually going to wear. And tops has been one of those things. So I've made quite a few tops this year and I will continue to do so because I get so much wear out of them. As well as tops that I've made new, I've also repurposed quite a few old tops and dresses and tablecloths. If you've watched previous videos, you'll know that too. So repurposing and just making things I know that I am definitely going to wear all the time. At the beginning of the year, I also made myself a jacket. If you have seen my things to do with quilt panels video, then you'll be familiar with this jacket because this is a panel that I had, like a Monet panel, and I turned it into a jacket. This was the Sonny pattern from Tilly and the Buttons, and I love it. It gets a lot of wear. I've lined it with some teddy fleece, so it is quite thick and cozy. It's not just like you couldn't wear it unless it was quite cold out. Not normally a problem here in the UK. The only thing I'd have done differently if I was to make this again is I probably would have quilted the sleeves because this is a chambray and they don't sit as well together. The lining and the chambray don't sit that well together. So I would have quilted over top of them and I think it just would have added a bit more texture as well. But I do really love it. The panel's amazing. So there was a baby announcement on my brother's in-laws side of the family, and I can never resist making a quilt for a new baby in the family. So I designed this quilt with hummingbird fabrics. These fabrics were gifted to me from Lewis and Irene at a trade show that I went to in February. So I felt like I wanted to make something special with them anyway that I could showcase that collection with. They loved it, and I got a nice picture of the baby laying on the quilt and things. So that was nice. But I also do pop-up shops, of which I've done 4 this year, and I absolutely love doing. Because I'm just online, I end up just not seeing anybody, and there are no fabric shops around us. So I like to pop up in a local village hall with all my fabrics and let people pick fabric and buy fabric in real life, and the local people really enjoy it. But I also put on a display of all the things that I have made, just for a bit of inspiration, and I really wanted to put that quilt on display, but obviously I'd gifted it. So I made it again in greys this time, and I think it completely changes it when you do it in like different fabric collections, and I think it's really nice to show people when you do a quilt pattern how it looks in different styles. So I do have a written blog of how to do this pattern, which is free for you to use, but I haven't done a video of it yet. So yeah, that is something that's on my to-do list for 2025, is get this as a video for you. Back in March, we went to a 2000s themed Butlins holiday with some of our parent friends. I don't know if any of you know what Butlins is, or if you have an equivalent if you're watching outside of the UK. But usually it's got fairground rides, there is entertainment every night. So people like, well, they have the Masked Singer, for example. We went with the kids later on in the year. They've got a great swimming pool. And it's a really great family holiday, but some weekends they have just adult only things, and there's lots of music and silent discos, and it is great fun. Well, we happened to go on St. Patrick's Day. So we all did, it's always fancy dress. So we dressed up every night. So either noughties themed, or we went as Where's Wally one night. And then we happened to be there when it was St. Patrick's Day. So I was like, well, I've got this fabric. It's been in the stash for ages. It's dead cheap. I've had it since before I sold fabric. But I was like, well, it's nice and shiny and it's very St. Patrick's Day. So I'll just sew something up in that for our day out. Now, my grandma used to have a 90 really similar to this. So I did like and ah whether to wear it, but with a nice St. Patrick's Day hat, I actually did quite like wearing this. I'm not sure if I'll wear it again. Maybe it'll come out for the next St. Patrick's Day, or maybe I need to repurpose it into something else. I made a Mabel last year or the year before, and it was a dress, and I did it in quilting cotton. And as much as I love sewing in quilting cotton for dressmaking, this particular pattern didn't work. And I didn't really wear it. I shortened it recently, and now I wear it as a top, and I much prefer it. But I did want to give in on that pattern because I really love the pattern. So I decided to make it in this viscose fabric, which has got like faces on. And I'm obsessed. This has been my favourite pattern this year. I've only made 2, but every new viscose that comes in, I want to make a version of this. I talked about wearing jeans all the time. This looks great just tucked in with jeans. So yeah, it gets loads of wear out. I really like the ruffly collar, but I didn't add the ruffly shoulders to the second one that I made. Not because I didn't like them, I just wanted to change it up a bit. So this is my Marnie, and there will definitely be more of these in 2025. When I came to making this, I actually couldn't decide whether to attempt the top in quilting cotton again. And I've got these 2 fabrics that are quite similar, and I couldn't decide which one to do. So I did this one in the Marnie, and I did the quilting cotton in a Mabel top. This is one of, I think, 3 or 4 Mabel tops that I've made. Not tops, just Mabel patterns. And I've made them as tops, long dresses, short dresses. And it's a really versatile pattern, and it completely changes it. I might do a separate video actually on this particular pattern and make it with you the next time I do it. So yeah, I ended up with both because I just couldn't decide. We actually did a lot of festivals this year, and it was our first year doing festivals, and now we're obsessed, and I plan on lots in 2025 as well. And I feel like you can just be more fun and a bit more creative when you go to a festival with no judgment from anybody. So one of the things I made with festivals in mind was this tablecloth top. So this was a tablecloth that belonged to my grandma, and it was so easy. It was just folded in half, cut a head hole, and then just cut a triangle out for the sleeves. I have done a separate video on how I made this if you were interested. But I wore this a lot just casually with a vest top underneath, and at festivals and things as well. And I said that my goal was to upcycle more and repurpose more. I've had this was a dress. So this dress had been in my, stuffed into a Kallax unit for years. I reckon maybe 10 years, because it was before that I had children. And the fabric actually I found in my mother-in-law's loft because she used to sew. And I was like, oh, were you ever going to use this? Please, may I have it? I think it would make an amazing dress. I made the dress, and as you can see, it never did up. And it just literally, I was just like, ugh. I was not early in I'd been sewing for a few years, but compared to what I do now, I was quite new to it, really. I didn't come back to it. Well, this year I was like, you know what, I'm going to change this into a top and a skirt. I still had some of the fabric that in my stash. So what I did is just added a panel of shirring and separated it to a top and a skirt. I have worn the skirt on its own with just a light plain cream top. And I have worn the top with shorts. I've worn it underneath that tablecloth top. I haven't worn them both together out and about yet, I don't think. It feels like really loud, and co-ords aren't really my thing. But it's been sat for years and now it's been repurposed. So that's been very satisfying. It's just you need a day that's not too windy and not too cold. That doesn't come around very often in the UK. This is my second tablecloth top, and now whenever I go into charity shops, the first thing I look for is to see if they've got any pretty embroidered tablecloths so I can recreate this over and over again, and I haven't found any more yet. This one belonged to my nan. Like I said, I did a separate video on my tablecloth tops, which you're welcome to have a look at, but it has been a firm favourite in my wardrobe. I patchworked the very bottom panel because I had run out of fabric, and I utilised the hem of the tablecloth wherever I could. So I've used it there and the hem on the sleeves and everything else. So it didn't actually take that long to make, and I just love it. I took part in Me Made May this year, and every single day in May I wore something that I had made. I didn't think it would be possible to do, but I managed to do it, and I wore something different every day. The only new thing that I made for in May was this skirt, and I wore this on my birthday. This is a Figo Fabrics, and as soon as it arrived, I think because they're stems, it felt like it needed something long. And as soon as it arrived, I just saw this skirt in my head. I self-drafted it. There's a short, actually, if you wanted to have a look at how I made it with the measurements and things on. Yeah, so this was my birthday skirt in May. During Me Made May, we went to a ball. It was in memory of Evelyn, who is a friend's little girl who is forever 15, and it was to raise money for a mental health charity. So I wanted something butterfly themed, because they have started the butterfly effect in her memory, which is the idea of just passing random acts of kindness. And if that person gets a random act of kindness, then they'll pass it on to somebody else, which I love the idea of. I'll put the details here, actually. So it would be amazing if some of you go away and share some random acts of kindness and hashtag Evelyn's butterfly effect with it too. But it did make me think, right, I need to wear something really special. I made this dress back in, I think I worked it out as 2007 to a Christmas party, and I think it just went in the loft. It was too long anyway, thankfully, because the bottom of it was quite dirty. I could never get the stains out. But I tried it on and everything else still fitted by some miracle. So I shortened, well, I didn't shorten it, but I just neatened off the edges where it had been stood on and stuff. And I added butterflies to it. And it was my butterfly ball gown. And it was amazing to wear. I was so pleased that I got another wear out of it, because it's not the kind of thing that you tend to go to very often. And I used to make dresses just for special occasions like that. And then I realised that there's so much effort for usually just one wear. I'm much better just making stuff that I'm going to wear every day. I ended up getting really carried away and having such a lovely time that I didn't get that many good photos of me wearing the dress on the night. But there is this really nice one of me and my husband when we were entering. Yeah, so I hope you like my butterfly ball gown too. So I talked about wearing trousers and tops quite a lot. This is my first pair of Thea trousers. I've not made like fitted trousers before. I've got like elasticated ones, but none with buttons. And this is the first time I've done it. It's got welt pockets and everything. It took me hours to work out how to do these pockets. I think I unstitched and unpicked them so many times, but I managed to do it. And now I know what I'm doing. So I have made a second pair and it took a lot less time. But yeah, they look very loud and they look like they're going to be really massive and baggy. But hopefully you agree, they just are such a good fit. And I didn't have to do any alterations on this either, apart from make them a little bit longer. So which is why I was instantly like, I need to make more of these because I don't wear dresses all the time. And sometimes it's just nice to wear trousers. So there will definitely be more trousers in my horizon for 2025. The fabric for this was actually a dead stock, a designer dead stock. And it is woven cotton, but it's like a dressmaking one rather than a quilting one. So it's a little bit lighter. And it hasn't creased that bad either. I haven't had to iron it that much. You may be wondering what on earth these are, and they don't look like much from when I'm holding them like this. But these are my butterfly wings, and they're the most fun thing that I've made this year. I mentioned that we go to a lot of festivals. Well, I made these. We went to, it was called Ibiza Classics. Like, it was basically a dance party at a really old house called Burley House near us. And they had a full orchestra of dance music. And it's just the most fun. It's like going clubbing, but outside. And last year we went, and there were people with those ones that you get off Amazon that light up. And I was like, I'm going to wear wings next year and I'm going to make them myself. I used some scraps from a wedding shop. So I picked up these scraps years ago and they've been in the loft, but I knew that I would need them one day. So they were basically from wedding dresses, offcuts. And doing a video on how, and a pattern on these wings is on my to-do list. They basically just had ties, and I've tied them to whatever it was that I happened to be wearing. Not because like normally I've got a bra strap or something. Then I had one a bit further down, and then there's a loop I could put around my finger as well. And obviously they light up. So they don't look like much when I'm showing you here, but hopefully you are seeing some pictures at the moment of me wearing them. I just felt like a kid again. When I wore them to a festival later on in the year, we went to Why Not Festival. I had so many people coming up to me and asking for pictures or just to compliment my wings, but also it meant my husband could not lose me in a crowd, which was reassuring too. We went with some friends and we could just always find our party because everyone just followed the butterfly wings. So everyone should, well, no, everyone shouldn't because then it wouldn't work so much. But yeah, I had a lot of people comment on them. And when we go next year, I really hope that I see a few more people with butterfly wings because they were feeling inspired to make some themselves. Tilly and the Buttons released Nell this year, and I instantly wanted to make something with it. I decided to use this seersucker fabric for my first attempt, and I have to say I haven't worn it that much. I think I would have preferred it if I'd done the cut off bit where it gathers at the bottom, but also the poppers that I just use cam snaps, and they are rubbish. They've kept just unpopping and losing them, so it doesn't do it very well. What I need to do is remove the cam snaps, put proper poppers on, like sewn in ones, and then I might get more use out of it. I think maybe it was this fabric. There are definitely some better patterns that I could use this fabric for, and that is one of the things that I want to do this year as well. I didn't want to give up on the pattern, so I did make it again, and I made it using some Liberty quilting cotton that I got in. This is the first Liberty collection that I stocked, so I really wanted to sew something with it. And it looks heavy, but this was one of my go-tos on really hot summer days. Not that we had too many of them, but because it was so airy, and I think wearing natural fibres when it's hot just makes it feel a lot cooler. So these are my Nells. When it comes to making them again, I will definitely make a smaller size. If you've watched the Great British Sewing Bee, you might be familiar with Brogan. Her Instagram tag handle is The Crafty Pie. So you might follow her, and she had her first fabric collection come out this year, which I stocked. And as you might have gathered by now, if it's not the first video that you've watched, I love green and blue. So I had to make something in this gingham. And it only seemed right to use a pattern from one of the Sewing Bee books that I've got, because I've always wanted to make this sheared dress anyway. I remember seeing it in Brogan's series and going, I need that. And shearing is one of the most satisfying like sewing methods. I made quite a few sheared things. I showed you that polka dot with the panel that I added. It just means you don't have to fit stuff either, because what's always going to fit you. And this viscose is beautiful. I wore this a lot in the summer. I wore it to some of the festivals as well. I got a big autumn delivery of dressmaking fabrics and dead stock ex-designer fabrics. And I wanted to make something with this. It's like a crepe. I sewed it up just as the weather went really rubbish here. So I have not worn these. I think I wore them once when I made them, took some photos, and then winter just instantly dropped. But I know that these are going to be really used in the summer when you just need something really light. And this fabric's lovely. I was thinking about making a matching top with it, but I just don't think that I would. Because it's got, like the hot pink, it's got some lilac in it, and it's got the green, like it's got so many colours. So when you come to pick your top, you could make these, you can make loads of different looks out of it. So I do need to think about these colours and try and find something else so I can wear something on top with it. Yeah, but I was quite pleased with these. I cannot remember the pattern. Hopefully I found it and I put it along the bottom of the screen. But it was a dead basic one. I already had like a paper pattern in my stash and the elastic waistband. So they're really comfy. This fabric came in that same fabric drop. This is the second Marnie that I mentioned where I didn't add the frill on the side. But you will have probably seen me wearing this top in a few videos because I love it. One of the things that I love most about it is the button, because I love a button. I've loved a button since I was a kid, and we used to live in London for a few years. My dad was in the army, so we moved around quite a lot. We spent a few years in London, and one of my youngest memories is going into the markets and being allowed to buy a button from the market. And this was in my button box from a kid, and it just felt like the perfect time to use it. So yeah, it's more than just a top for me. I'm like, every time I put it on, I'm just like, oh, it's got my button on too. And it just brings back those nice childhood memories of probably where my love of making stuff came from. You might find think this fabric looks quite familiar because it's actually the same collection as the dress that I'm wearing, but this is a viscose and this is a twill, and obviously they're different colorways, but I didn't realize until after I'd made the dress, and then I was like, oh yeah, it's the same. I obviously really like the pattern. I'm really drawn to it because I've used it twice. I don't think I included this top in my numbers, probably because I'm not overly like happy with it. There are a few reasons. So I got this black top because this black fabric because I wanted something stretch, and I thought maybe I could make some leggings out of it, but I don't think there's quite enough stretch to make leggings with it. But I also thought I need some just plain black for layering. Turns out I'm really rubbish at layering clothes. It's just, I think I'm just not cool enough and not fashionable enough. I just want to make the outfit and wear the outfit, and I just don't think about the layering aspect of it. So I made this top, and I think I've only worn it once. The other reason that I haven't worn it is because I couldn't find my jersey needle. The only one that I had was a twin needle. So there are parts of it that don't sit very well because I've used a twin needle. So I need to unstitch this bit here that looks quite bulky and redo that now that I do have some jersey needles. I just shouldn't have rushed it, but it is a lovely fabric. So it's like a polyester jersey mix, but it feels really soft on the inside. And it might end up being like a running top when it's colder, like a workout top. So I actually make keepsake quilts for a living as well as my fabric shop. So although I've only featured 2 quilts here, I've definitely made at least 4 quilts that were non-keepsakes, but I made 91 keepsakes this year. That's like cushions and hearts and things as well. But I am very busy sewing quilts all year round. I think I worked it out that I did one every 4 days. But this is one that I made for myself. When I mentioned my pop-up shops, I wanted to showcase this new Liberty collection. It was called Tree of Life. And I also designed this half hexagon template with my husband to make it. I have done a separate video on this if you want some more information, but it is definitely up there as one of my favourite quilts that I have made this year. Out of nearly 100 that I have made. This year, I, for the very first time, made my husband something to wear. and it was my first Tony shirt. First time I've made a shirt. I did have to do a lot of alterations to it though, because the fit just wasn't what he wanted. And although it was the Back to Future style, maybe that 80s oversized shirt probably fitted the fabric, it wasn't for him. So the sleeves were a lot longer, the actual body was a lot longer, and it was just really, there was a lot of room in it despite measurements and stuff. So I have got the pattern that I've cut out, and I've altered the pattern so that I can make another one, because there is some fabric that I do want to make him a shirt out of, but hopefully without having to make too many alterations. We wore this to a punk rock factory gig, who are just for parents that like Disney movies but also like rock music. It was really good fun, and he did get a compliment on his Back to the Future shirt, and I was like, oh, I made it. I can never resist telling people if someone has a compliment on something that I've made. It was nice to make him something for a change, and hopefully I'll have something to put under the tree this year for him too, if I have time. It's 5 days till Christmas when I'm recording this, by the way. This is my second pair of Thea trousers. I made it with some autumn fabric that arrived. I am not very good at being patient, and I like to make the most of what I've got. So because I make a lot of keepsakes, if people don't want the clothes back and I take them to recycle, a lot of the time I'll take the zips out because I can use the zips. I do plan on taking them to my pop-up shops so that people can help themselves to zips and they can get repurposed, because it's expensive and it's an annoying thing not to just have a stash of, isn't it? When you come to make a project, you've got the fabric and you're like, oh, it needs a zip. So I just made one with one that fitted, but it was cream, and I thought it's okay, it'll be hidden. You can see a little bit. Most of the time I'm wearing something that will cover it, but I do need to go back and address this zip. But like I say, it came together a lot quicker with the welt pockets this time, and the lining I used, because this was a linen blend, but it would have been too heavy to use as the pockets. So I used that green, and I do wear those together quite a lot from my Marnie top. One of our friends turned 40 this year, and she wanted to have a 90s themed birthday party because that was her favourite era. Well, in the 90s, there was Legally Blonde and Clueless, and I would have been playing with Barbies, so I decided to go as Barbie. I got a blonde wig, and I made my second jacket of the year. It was the same Sonny pattern, but I added the frilly bit around here. And this is a designer dead stock fabric as well. And the pattern for the skirt was literally just in the same Sewing Bee book that I did the sheared dress in. It was so simple. It's amazing. I haven't worn it since. I just don't know what to pair it with. I'm not going to wear it together because, well, I don't want to look like Barbie every day, but I do want to wear the jacket more. So I need to work out what I could wear it with. Would these go together? No, probably not. I need to work out a dress that I can wear this over top of, or some trousers. If you have any pattern suggestions or fabric suggestions you think would go with it, then let me know. Maybe it would go with Nell. Hang on. Would that work? No, probably not. The colours do, but not this. No, because of the orange buttons. I'm getting distracted. I will move on. The year is rounding up. Before I finish with my last dress, I need to point out the one that I'm wearing, because I don't think I've talked about this one yet. And I made this, I think, September time. It is a viscose twill. I am not that great with knowing different types of fabrics, because I started off with quilting cotton, and getting into the dressmaking world is something I'm reasonably new at. But the twill basically is the diagonal weave that runs through it. It means it's slightly heavier than viscose, which makes it a really nice autumn dress. And I love these colours because I can wear them with tights. I love a dress that I can wear with tights. I've put pockets in it. I will find the pattern that I made this out of, because I can't remember off the top of my head. It's a great pattern. I think it came free in a magazine, and when I was like, I want to make something with that fabric. Let me have a look at what patterns I've got. And I was like, I think that will work. And I loved how it sewed up. It came together really easily and cleverly as well, like the way the sleeves attached to the main bodice. I quite liked it. It was clever. So I will be making this dress again for sure. I just don't know what fabric yet. I thought it'd be nice to try it in a actual viscose for something more summery. I do also have in here a cotton viscose blend from the Crafty Pie, which is the same designer as this one, and I think actually this would look good in that, and it could be a nice spring dress. So I might add that as my things to sew in 2025. The very last thing was this indigo dress, which I think will be my Christmas Day dress because it's mega comfy. It's great to wear on like Christmas dinner because it's nice and baggy. I did straighten up the skirt, but I was really annoyed with myself that I have ignored the stripes of the gingham. There was no excuse either because it was just the way it was folded onto the bolt. It wasn't that the weave was wonky. It's just my own fault for not paying enough attention. So I have learnt lessons this year too, which I have mentioned as I've gone along, and this is one of them. But I am still going to wear it because I don't care that much. It'll probably have a Christmas jumper over the top anyway. I've just said that was my last one, and what I've completely forgotten is the dress that I'm stood right next to and have been the whole time, because this was my Christmas party dress. I have shared another video on this most recently, so go and have a look if you want a bit more detail of how I made it. But the pattern was like, the pattern actually had sleeves and it was front and back, but I really liked the neckline, and I really liked the idea of having a strapless, a backless dress. So I've managed to use that pattern and hack it loads, and it turned out really well. I felt beautiful wearing it at the Christmas party. It's a faux silk, but the quality of it was amazing. I did have to tape myself into the dress just to avoid any embarrassment, but I think that's acceptable, isn't it? You have to sometimes tape yourself into like shopboard dresses. Well, I hope you have enjoyed watching my video today of everything that I made in 2024. If you like it, if you like some of the things that I've made, then please subscribe, because I'm going to keep this up. And because my YouTube channel is very new, I don't have a lot of content for any of the stuff that I've made. But obviously going forward, I'm going to take you on that sewing journey with me every time I make something. So make sure you follow along and let me know what you think to anything that I've made. If you think I've had some particularly good makes or some that you are questioning my decision on in the comments. It's nice to get a conversation going.